Are you looking for more out of your life? Do you need ideas on how to start new businesses and how to move forward in your own personal life? Well, guess what? You have come to the right radio show. At You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, you will learn and hear from many people from all walks of life who are sharing their challenges, their stories, the habits, and the mind shifts they had to overcome to become who they are today. On top, you will get a chance to connect and see how you can overcome anything by networking and learning about your next move through this radio show. I present to you our great speakers at You Can Overcome Anything podcast show with your host, CesarRespino. Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. It is your host, CesarRespino, and today I have a special guest. His name is Jeff Law. Hey, Jeff, how are you?
Good, Cesar. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to have this conversation with you today and dive into who you are and what you're working on.
Sure.
Yeah, so just to give a little bit of content to our viewers and listeners, Jeff Law is a 27-year-old serial entrepreneur and real estate investor from Orange County, California. Having a very international and culturally diverse family background, his main goal was always to connect America and Asia. Who better to do this than a first-generation Asian American who understands both cultures and trends? His newest business is Kai Wagyu, a Japanese A5 Wagyu beef business, which directly imports from Japan and sells wholesale to restaurants, butchers, private chefs, and provides online physical retail options for customers. Wow, that's amazing. And you know, I'm always interested on the idea of people that come here, whether they're first generation or second generation, yet they have those roots from other places and they come here with a purpose in mind. So tell me a little bit about your background. Tell me a little bit about your upbringing and how was that for you?
Sure. Yeah. So I grew up here in Orange County, California. And the funny thing is, every time people ask me, "Oh, like, what are you? Like, what nationality are you?" It's a kind of a hard question for me, because my mother was actually born and raised in Thailand,
Okay.
and my dad was born and raised in Myanmar or Burma.
Okay.
And so a lot of people, kids, they don't know what that is. But ethnically, my family background is Taiwanese. So it's a whole mix to say, but I just end up telling people, "Oh, I'm just Chinese." It's easier. I
Yeah.
grew up with a lot of Hispanics.
Yeah.
So I'm just Chino to everybody.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
I just tell people that.
Yeah, it's funny. It's the same thing with me, right? I mean, in the Hispanic market, right, society, people say, "Well, where are you? Are you Mexican?" And they kind of refer to every Hispanic, whether you're from El Salvador or Guatemala, as Mexican.
Yeah.
And luckily, I am Mexican. I was born in Mexico, right? Nevertheless, the same thing, and I can relate to that. I can see what you're talking about for sure.
Yeah.
So tell me, how long ago did your parents migrate to the States, and did that have any kind of impact to you growing up? A lot of times I can see sometimes that makes a big difference for a first generation born in the
Yeah.
US.
Yeah, I really think so because, my parents came here, I would say in the 80s probably.
Okay.
So, when I was growing up, it's the typical immigrant parents lifestyle, right? Like
Right.
parents always working. I didn't really get to see my dad growing up. He's just working all the time. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, like a traditional
Yep.
mom, but my dad was working all the time. Never got to really see him. So this is why it kind of pushed me to want to start my own business right after college, actually in college, because I knew, like I saw my dad how hard he worked. Just working a office job, is not going to really give you the freedom or flexibility to have time with your children, and it's not going to allow you to live the life that I want to live because I saw my dad and he's still working today and still grinding and doesn't have much free time at all. So, I knew there was another way in life.
Yeah.
But I would really say that experience has pushed me towards why I am doing what I'm doing today. Definitely.
Right, definitely. So growing up, did you had any idea of what you wanted to be or become? Or a lot of times, I know that parents tend to, uh, you know, gear us towards a particular industry or field of interest. How was that for you?
Yeah, a typical Asian mindset, right? Oh, become a doctor, lawyer, engineer,
Yeah,
one of those.
yeah,
But I always knew, oh, and actually thought I would want to do that, but I realized, you know, I want to be a business owner. I want to do my own thing. I want to, you know, create something of my own, and I don't want to be a doctor just because of the money or whatever it is. I want to create something and um, just create the life that I wanted to live.
yeah. So did you go to college?
Yeah, I went to college. My undergraduate degree was actually in health sciences.
Okay.
I thought I wanted to be a physical therapist. I thought I wanted to be a dentist. But the reason why I wanted to do those things is because I wanted to have my own office and run the business. So I realized, why become a doctor to do that? You just run your own business.
Right. You don't need that to be that exactly right.
Yeah,
And all
yeah,
the headaches and the work, I'm sure, right, that goes with
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So I'm assuming as you were going to college, you were also working some sort of 9 to 5, or you were grinding at some sort of job. What was that job?
Well, in college, I was working at a physical therapy office,
Okay.
thinking that's what I wanted to do. But every day, just kind of and physical therapy is great; it's a necessity. But I realized that most of the need for that is, older people. So I would literally be helping old people stretch for hours, and they would fall asleep. They would fart in their sleep, and I was like, "This is not what I want to do. This
Right.
is not what I want to do."
Yeah. 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 So how was that for you to transition from, I guess, a 9 to 5 to say, you know what, let me just really go and do my own job, work for myself, becoming an entrepreneur. Because I see, there's different forms, right? One, you have the means, you have the money, and you go after it. Sometimes you don't have the money or the means, yet you have the desire, or sometimes you have kind of both, right? So how was that for you?
So to tell you how it all started, actually my last year of college, my good friend of mine, guy I grew up with, he was always super entrepreneurial as well, and he said, "Hey, like I'm gonna start a business and this was the time, 2016, where there was a lot of foreign money coming in, especially from
Hmm.
from China. A lot of rich Chinese people were bringing the money here, buying up houses, doing whatever. So he was like, I want to start a business where we connect these Chinese hospitals and bring affluent and rich people from China to over here and get them treatment at
Mm.
the top hospitals here, like UCLA Hospital.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did, because I had the background in health sciences. And so, and I speak Chinese.
Mm.
So, so what we did, our first business was we would be a kind of like a concierge service. We would set up people's health checkups. We would arrange airfare. We arrange hotels, arrange food, translation services, everything like that. And a lot of rich Chinese people were coming over here to pay for healthcare because in China, I guess the hospitals, it's not the same quality. And
Right.
of course, they wanted the best of the best. So we would arrange everything for them, and they would just get treatments at UCLA hospital. So that was the first business that we did. And after a couple years, the trend of Chinese investment kind of slowed down.
Hmm.
So we actually moved to our next business, which we did for a couple years. We did a recruitment business where, because my partner, he was born and raised in Japan,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
And so Japan as a country has a declining birth rate and aging population. So they
Mm.
don't really have enough workers in their workforce. So what they were starting to do, especially hospitals, they were going out to the Philippines, to Vietnam, you know, Southeast Asian countries to recruit nurses for their
Mm.
hospitals.
Yeah.
So we were the middleman as a recruitment service for that. We would arrange the connection and arrange the visa, the travel. So similar type of business, but for a different industry.
Right.
And so we were doing this, and then COVID hit, and jobs in Japan were crushed, and I was stuck here in the States. And that's actually how everything led to me starting the new business, Kai Wagyu,
Mhm.
is because that business crashed because of COVID. And then now I had all these relations to Japanese government people and export companies and food processing companies and farms. So I decided to start importing Japanese Wagyu to the United States, and that's how I started this business.
Right. Yeah. And so it's interesting to know how I think a lot of people have gone through some very similar challenges, right? That due to COVID, they're either their business of many years or maybe their startup business just kind of went south, and,
Yeah,
and it didn't work out. And then the difference is that some of them were able to pivot, recognize that it was just a roadblock, and they pivot to something different, right? And
yeah.
so I guess for you, even going through that and losing to COVID your previous business, what was going through your mind to say, I'm not gonna give in or give up. I'm going to pivot and do something different, because it's very easy to just go back to the 9 to 5, or even so in the US, as we know, the government was giving a lot of assistance to people and giving out free money and so on and so forth. So people decided to just, what, why work
Yeah.
when I can get some money from the government, right? How was it for you?
Well, to be honest, it was a low point, because we laid off 10 of our employees.
Mm,
We had a bunch of workers in the pipeline that we could no longer get jobs for. So, I felt very guilty to that. And although it's not my fault, it's, you feel that responsibility. And so when I was here, I did not want to just sit around and collect government money or anything like that. I knew out of necessity, I needed to start something else.
mm,
You know, um, we laid off people and we felt so bad that we wanted to give them the severance pay that they weren't able to get. So to be honest, I started this business as a side project, really, hopefully to just weather the storm.
yeah,
Because we didn't know how long it would last, right? I thought, oh, just make some money and then try to keep them happy and pay them a little bit so that we can keep going.
right.
And that's how originally the plan was. But this side business kind of took off, and now we're doing this full time. We have 4 full-time employees. We have a butcher shop opening up in Costa Mesa. So it kind of came this whole thing, and it originally was just a side project, kind of.
Yeah, I'm sure many might be asking the question of, if you started more or less, you mentioned you started your entrepreneurial journey 2016. It kind of seems like it's a pretty rapid growth, and from 2016 to now 2021, although we're looking at 5-6 years in between.
Mhm.
It's a pretty rapid growth. What led to that? What was the behind things you were doing, whether it was a mentorship, whether it's financial literacy? How what was the one thing that helped you through to get there that fast?
Um, I would say financial literacy was not a big part in the first couple of years. We had a lot of mistakes, as any, I think, 21, 22-year-old business owner would have. We did not do things the right way. But more or less, it was just kind of making mistakes and learning from it. And
Hmm.
also, I think the biggest key though is finding a mentor or mentors that
Mm,
have done this before. And I think that's the most important thing for any person trying to do a business, because there's so many unknowns and you really don't know what you're doing in the growth phase. You really need somebody that's done it before or done something similar to before to just help you, guide you, or else you're really just lost.
yeah, yeah, and then, that's actually pretty interesting, um, because a lot of people, and maybe kind of touching more on that, many people might believe that, why would I spend whatever thousands of dollars on somebody coaching me, on mentoring me on how to go about doing my business, when probably a lot of times people said, barely have enough to start my own business, let alone to be spending money on a mentor. How do you respond to that?
Well, luckily for me, I had a couple people in my network that were mentors to me out of just being just a great person or a big
Mhm.
brother of mine.
Yep.
But to people that are afraid of paying somebody, I would say that $1,000 or 2,000, whatever it costs, you're gonna make that very easily if you have a good mentor.
Mm,
And I think that's just an investment, just like anything else when you're starting a business. Like that's an investment,
yeah.
and it's gonna pay off if you have the right mentor. And 1,000 to 5,000, whatever it costs, with a good mentor, that's easily recoupable.
Right. Right. Yeah. So definitely, and I totally agree with you. I think just like um, people pay, I don't know, 20, 30, $40,000 per year to go to college and get educated,
Yeah, what's
you
the
know,
difference? Yeah,
exactly. Right.
yeah,
And it always intrigues me how people see that being okay, yet they don't see maybe working with a mentor being okay. There's not a big difference. And sometimes even just the idea of going through that, which I'm not saying is a bad idea. You know, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be certain industries require you to have that degree and go to college and do that.
yeah.
Nevertheless, it's kind of the same aspect, right?
Yeah, you don't see the top sports players not hiring coaches in the off season.
Right.
They're the best in the world. They're still hiring people.
Yeah.
So why wouldn't anybody else? You know?
Yeah, that's definitely true. I like what you said. Success is on the other side of fear, right? Tell me more about that, because obviously, I'm sure you've gone through a lot of ups and downs. You've overcame a lot of different obstacles. Um, Tell me about how fear was probably down your neck, yet you were looking beyond that fear and say, you know what, success is on the other side of everything that I'm going through right now.
Yeah, and to be honest, that mentality is something recently that I thought of, but because I look back, and although I'm only 27 years old, I've looked back and said every time I was nervous about something, or every time I was kind of scared about taking that jump, actually those are the times where you win the most, is
Mm,
after you take that step. So if you never take that step, if you never try, then you'll never win, right? Because there's no opportunity for you.
right.
So I think a lot of people have this desire to do something, start a business or whatever it is, but it's that fear that stops them. And do you want to be 60 years old and say, oh man, like I should have tried. I should have tried, you know? And
Yeah.
I think that's what a lot of people have that's kind of blocking them. And I really do think every time I look back and every time I had a positive win in my business career, it was fear right before I took that step,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And it's not going to work out every time, but you got to keep trying. And that's the only way.
Yeah, so even with that, right? As you mentioned, even if it doesn't work every time, and you take that leap, you jump, and you don't get the results, that's still a win, right? I mean, even if you perceive it as a failure, although there's no failures, it's more of a lesson.
Yeah.
That's still a win, right? Because if you took that leap and you jump, and again, you might have not gotten the results, you got some sort of lessons. You got something to know how to do it better next time. And
Yeah.
again, even if it's that painful, and I know, and I want to touch a little bit on this, on the real estate investing. I know for me, I'm also a real estate investor, and early on my investing career, I was making deals and putting down money for properties that I was trying to acquire, where I remember this one deal. I put $10,000 on a as an earnest deposit for a property that I want to flip, a short sale, and everything seemed to be good. It was aligned. It was on the MLS. It was actually a listing. I was working with my agent. My agent was contacting the other agent. Everything was legit, or it looked legit at least.
Mhm, mhm.
And 2-3 months passed by, and I'm like, wait, I know it's a short sale. And I know sometimes that takes time. Yet I want to know what's going on with this property.
Yeah.
And as fearful as that might have been to just put down a $10,000 deposit, realizing that when we found out that there was a group of agents that were scamming people, I happened to be one of them. Unfortunately, that was a scary thing. Yet you
Yeah.
learn, and as painful as it is to say I lost $10,000, if I've never taken that leap, I would have never learned that lesson, right? Whatever that might have been. Same thing on relationships. Sometimes we want to not do the hard thing, which is, hey, I might need to move away from this relationship, whether it's business and or personal relationship, because we're so afraid. Yet when we do it, we feel like it definitely made sense, later on when you look back, right? And so I think that's a good lesson, and that's definitely a golden nugget to take away from the conversation. Talking about real estate investing, tell me about that. How did you get involved with that, and what was the driving factor on that too?
Yeah, sure. So I was lucky, and my dad, he worked as a structural engineer,
Okay.
and so I had, a lot of experience being around real estate, but I never was able to understand investing. But just like you said, in the first couple of years when we made a lot of money from our business, it wasn't a lot, but at the time, a 21-year-old,
Yeah.
it was a lot to me. But
Yeah.
I knew being an entrepreneur it's a risky business, right? It's a very up and down thing. And so I don't know why I knew this, but I just knew I needed to put it into something safe. I didn't want to spend this money. So the first thing I did was I bought a duplex in Long Beach,
Hmm.
and I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew in the back, like, oh, my dad's a structural engineer, like he works with a lot of construction guys sometimes, so I kind of know, that's why I kind of grew up understanding that a little bit.
Yep.
And I grew up with a lot of Hispanics, so like my Spanish, I could talk to these guys and there's no problem. So I put it into that, and then I saw in a couple years or a year even, I refinanced, and I was able to get almost all my down payment back. And I was like, oh wow, like there's some real power in this.
Hmm.
And then started to cash flow, and then a couple years or a year after, actually, I bought a single family house in
Hmm.
Santa Ana and rented that out. And then now I'm in the process of building an ADU in the backyard of that Santa Ana house. So I think that for a lot of California investors is the next wave, because that's the only way to really cash flow is if you buy something and you put an ADU on it.
Right. Right. Yeah, definitely. So one thing that I think is very interesting, and I want to know, what is it that you do in terms of that? Just you started your journey at 21, you're 27 now. I think a lot of that goes into, and you kind of mentioned that earlier, that your mental way of thinking, you had a mental shift. Um, uh, how did that come about? Because obviously you have to have a different type of a mindset to be able to start thinking about not only becoming an entrepreneur. A lot of people think of that, yet more so taking the action to be able to get to that place, and understanding that even at the age of 21, 22, 23, you're gonna have a lot of ups and downs. And many people at that age, all they care about is, let me just enjoy the party life and all these different
Yeah.
things, right? So how is that mindset different now compared to other people in your group of age?
Yeah. I would say, most of the people in my age group, all my friends from college, they all work a 9 to 5 job, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
But for me, I just know the comfortable life does not come from working an office job. And some people like my girlfriend, she calls me the laziest, hardworking guy she knows. And the reason why I'm so hardworking now is because later in my life, I want to be lazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the reason, I don't want to grind for 30, 40 years in an office just trying to work my way up. Like, I want to set myself up early so that later in my life, I have passive income to just enjoy life and be with my family. And that's my main driving force.
Yeah. No, I love that. Well, do you have any habits, any things you do now day to day to kind of keep you in a positive state of mind every day?
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, Caesar, because running a business, it's a lot of ups and downs. And
Hmm.
if you don't stay positive, it can really take a toll on you. So I really try to, and it's difficult, but you have to remain positive because if you're not positive, your employees are not going to see that.
Yep.
And if they're not positive, then everything's not going to go well because they have to believe, and you, starting from you, you have to believe everything's going to be good. Because how can your employees believe that if you don't believe that?
Right.
So I think every day you just have to be positive. Um, and I think even when things aren't going good, if in your mind you're doing the best that you can, then that's all you can ask for. So that's how I think of it.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. Jeff, if people wanted to connect with you, where can they find you, and how they can connect with you?
Yeah, sure. So my Instagram is at Jeff Law, JEFFLAWW, two W's at the end.
Okay.
Or my business at Kai Wagyu, KaiWagyu.com as well. So we have an online e-commerce business where we ship A5 Japanese Wagyu directly to your door.
Okay.
We get our Wagyu straight from Hokkaido. We get it straight from Kagoshima. We work with the farm in Hokkaido. And we are soon opening up a premium butcher shop in Costa Mesa, right down the street from South Coast Plaza,
Okay.
a big mall. So I think it's going to be a really cool butcher shop. We're going to have premium foods, so mostly Wagyu, but also we'll have like some premium seafood as well. So yeah, it'll be cool. I think opening hopefully next month, so beginning of the year next year.
Okay. Awesome. 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 And then the last question I have for you is, for the people that are listening to us and watching us, if any of them are going through some sort of challenge, whatever challenge that might be, what is one or two advices that you can give those people so that they can start overcoming that challenge?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think a big part is what we were talking about earlier is when you have these challenges and you don't really know what to do or where to turn. I think this is where it's so important to have a mentor or even just a partner or a friend that you can confide in, hear their advice. And maybe it's not something you take directly, but it helps to just even speak your mind and think out loud. And then you can go back to the problem and tackle it that way. That, and I also think another part of what we talked about is there's going to be challenges, but if you just truly believe that you're doing everything in your power and everything that you can to overcome that, then you have to live with that. You can't really dwell on anything else. You just got to do the best you're doing and keep
Yeah.
going.
No, definitely. I definitely agree with you on that. And sometimes we as human beings, and I think more so the male figures, we are afraid to ask for help. We're afraid to yell that, hey, we're in the danger zone and we need some sort of assistance. And I think you're right. I mean, if you cannot go out and afford a mentor, go talk to a family member that you can trust, or a partner, someone that can give you some sort of advice. And really is that it's just an advice, and you either take it for what it is, and if you still feel like you're lost, go out and find somebody else, right? Never give up. And I like the mentality of having that positivity and always pushing through and moving forward. And again, there's so many things that we're going to get hit by, and as long as you feel like you're doing the right thing and you're in the right path, then everything else should work out itself. And I know that firsthand, because I myself have gone through some very challenging times the last couple of months, and I look back and I said, you know what, I'm blessed because I'm here today, and
Exactly.
I can still make a difference.
Yeah.
And so what took place is not going to be it's not going to define who I'm going to be tomorrow or who I am today.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah, great. Well, Jeff, anything else that you want to share before I let you go?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered it all. Thank you so much. It was a
Yeah.
great interview. It was just great chat.
All
I
right.
think me and you have very similar, mentality. So I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, I definitely do believe that too. So awesome. Well, thank you again for being on the show today, and we'll definitely have everything ready for everybody to see.
Okay. Thank you so much, Cesar. Have a
Yeah,
great day.
definitely. And for the rest of you guys, do me a favor, make sure you guys check out Jeff. Go connect with him on his Instagram and all those different places. Check out his website. And do me a favor, share this message because somebody needs to hear this. I'll see you guys at the next episode of You Can Overcome Anything podcast show. Bye.
Hi, I'm CesarRespino, real estate investor, business coach, and consultant, and author of the book, You Can Overcome Anything, Even When the World Says No. My number is 424-501-6046. In my book, I talk about making the necessary changes to shift your mind for prosperity and certainty. Pick up your copy at Amazon. I also love helping families with their real estate and can purchase your house fast and all cash. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. My number is 424-501-6046.
Thank you for having me today. I am so glad you've tuned into this podcast. You can find me at your favorite podcast platform where you can like, subscribe, comment, and share. And to learn more about myself, my services, you can find me at www.CesarRespino.com, or you can also find me at your social media. Thanks for joining me, and I am looking forward to having you at the next episode. And know you truly can overcome anything.